Hello there, and welcome to the Counselor's Kitchen, where the food is therapy and the kitchen table is safety. We want to have a conversation today, so we've got just the spot for you right here at the kitchen table, where we talk about life and everything it has to offer. So pull up a seat and join the conversation right here at the Counselor's Kitchen table. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you're listening. It's your boy Davion here with another podcast episode, and I am so elated. I have a special guest of mine. Now, you heard her husband a couple of weeks ago, Brother Michael Gonzalez. He talked about his marriage and his new life in marriage, and so we have his wife here, Jessica Gonzales, and she's going to talk about her new life. So go ahead and tell them your name, anything you like to say. Introduce yourself, Jess.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Gonzales. And
I'm just glad to be here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm a little shy at first.
Yeah, emphasis on at first, because this woman here she's a firecracker. She know how to tell it like it is, and I love it. So I'm so elated to have you today. We're going to be talking about your story, diving a little bit deeper into who you are, the things that you've done, the things that God has done in you. And I'm just glad to give you that platform to be able to exercise that opportunity to tell your story. So today, our word of the day is very, very befitting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So for everybody knows, our word of the day is a portion where at the beginning of the show, we start with the word of the day. That's our appetizer, so to speak, in this grand meal of a podcast, right? And our word of the day usually consists of a word that coincides with the story. And it just kind of gives everybody an opportunity to be hooked in, kind of relatable within the confines of the story. So our word of the day is dependence. And that is a specific terminology that is used to describe a specific type of person. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I'm going to read a few of the definitions, and then we'll, kind of piggyback off of them. So the first definition says the state of relying on or needing someone or something for aid or support or the like. The second definition says reliance, confidence, or trust. The third definition says an object of reliance or trust, subordination or subjugation. Any of those words stick out to you just so far on those few definitions? We got a few more, but so far, does anything stick out to you?
Yeah, the first one, the state of relying or needing someone or something for aid.
Okay, and why is that?
Or the like. Well, I know a lot of us struggle. I mean, whether, everybody has different experiences they go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And usually when you go through something traumatic, you try to find happiness
in other things.
Yeah, in other things. Gotcha. And then you cling on to it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, very, very interesting. I like that you said that. The fourth definition talks about, or the fourth definition says the state of being conditional or contingent on something as though a natural or logical sequence. I'm reading fast. And the fifth definition says a state of being psychological, that's what I was actually reading, or physiologically dependent on a drug or substance after a prolonged period of use. So, of course, anything sticks out there in that definition.
Yeah, the psychologically dependent on a drug.
Yeah.
Mommy. After a prolonged period of use. That one right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the specific terminology for dependency, somebody who's kind of had a use or a history of use of drugs. And so we are going to explore your story as far as that is concerned. So viewer discretion, listener discretion advised. And again, we always talk about real life stuff on this podcast. This is real stuff. These are real stories. People are here to tell their stories, and I'm so grateful that God has entrusted me with this platform to be able to give other people the opportunity to free themselves. Every guest pretty much that I've had on has often told me it's a liberating experience, and typically their first time guests. They're just people that this is their first time telling their story. And so it is a liberating experience. And so, like I say, viewer discretion, listener discretion is advised. We are going to talk about some heavy stuff, but parents, especially parents, those who are listening, definitely take heed to what's going to be said on today. So I'm very excited. One of the words that sticks out to me, you're saying psychological or sociological, that's a good one. The fourth definition talks about a state of being conditional or contingent on something as though a natural or logical sequence. That really speaks of the trickery of the mind, right? The mind will literally be conditioned to believe that you need something as if this were a natural thing. Oftentimes, a word that's used, especially in the psychological world, is cope, right? Finding ways to cope with something or cope without something. That literally is kind of the antonym, if you will, for this definition. Because this definition is literally saying you're conditioning yourself to believe that that thing is so natural to your life, you need it and you can't be without it. And I think one of the main ways that we progress, especially when it comes to use and drug use and things like that, or any kind of addiction really, is learning new ways to cope, finding something to hold on to or cleave on to that's better than what it is that you feel like you're leaving behind, because your mind has already told you, especially as it pertains to this fourth definition, that you're conditioned or contingent on this as though it was natural, or the other word is logical, meaning that this thing is so a part of my mind that I can't think without it, I can't reason without it, I can't, you understand what I'm saying? So that's a definition that sticks out to me. Any piggyback you have on that?
Nah, I agree with everything you're saying. It's even like the words that you use to describe it, I had never thought about putting it into words.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
in the feeling that I used to feel, it's like you spoke it out.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. And so today we're going to kind of dive deeper into that and explore that via your story. So how does the word of the day relate to you and your story?
Okay, so dependence. Well, I can just...
Yeah, just free flow.
Okay. So I want to start then from the beginning, so you can kind of understand where all my dependence began on. Okay, so, I come from a family, my parents aren't together. They haven't been since I can remember. I'm like 4 years old. And the very first time that, I had a traumatic experience, it was at the age of 4.
Wow.
Yes, I was 4 years old, and my parents are from El Salvador. So my mom went over there and she took me when I was like 4. And over there, I got molested.
Wow.
And as a child, I didn't know what was going on. I can just give you like what happened. So this guy, he was putting us on horses, like me and my sister, and he was telling me that in order for the horse to ride smooth, like he had to, touch me down there. So at first I was like, okay, because I'm a kid, like, and especially as a parent, I know y'all don't think about speaking to your children. Oh, beware of this, beware of that, because
you have to.
Yeah, nobody ever spoke to me about what was right or wrong, or if anybody did anything to come to you. So the guy was like, oh, if there's the only way the horse is gonna go. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my first traumatic experience. And as a child, like your mind kind of dismisses things, so you don't really remember it. Like as a kid, because, I have a 3-year-old, and what I've noticed is that they forget a lot.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much like in the moment. They don't cling on to things.
Right.
So as I got a little older, probably like, I would say like 5, 6, all the way till I was 11. I got molested throughout that whole period.
Wow.
Yes, and then at 11 years old, I got raped.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so since I didn't have a childhood, like my mind kept wanting to hook onto something. And, this is me talking about my past. Yeah. So I want to kind of fast forward, I decided to have a child. I was 14 years old and I wanted to have a child. And the reason for that was to get away from everything that happened to me. And to be honest, I didn't know what love is.
Yeah.
So I had a boyfriend and, I was like, oh, I want to have a kid. Like, I like that little feeling of attention. And, the thought of somebody cares for me.
Yes.
So that was my first dependence. Like, okay, like, he loves me. And I love him. We're going to be together forever. And my baby was born. I was 15 when she was born. And then she was my dependence. But then later, so I was 15 years old. Then at 16, this was my major thing that I depended on was marijuana. That's what I started smoking. And after I started smoking that, I realized, oh man, life is much better with this. I don't need no guy. Wow. I don't need no nothing.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. And the truth of the matter is everything happens for a reason, right? We oftentimes in life we dismiss that principle, but it is the truth. Everything happens for a reason. Everything comes from something, right? And so oftentimes I think in life, and we've talked about this, I think our second episode or whatever in the podcast talks about trauma, talks about sexual molestation and things like that. And Coach T, she was talking about how it warped her mind, but kind of the similar thing that you're talking about, it kind of made her just stuck in a place. And she was trying to find her way out of it and through it. And, there were other emotions that were attached to that. And we'll talk about that a little deeper. But I heard you say something. You talked about your first dependence. And that's one of my questions I was going to ask you about was where did those things kind of start? The thing about it is, oftentimes when we go through traumatic experiences, we try to focus on something that takes us away from that trauma, right? And so for you, like you said, you didn't know love. But for you, you felt like you needed something to project love on. But you wasn't feeling what you was trying to give. You know what I mean? And it's hard to do that. And you can speak more to your specific experience. But I think oftentimes we get in a headspace where, especially when it comes to our first love or those kind of things, our first sort of bonds, is that we're seeking something or we're seeking to give something we don't have. And it's like, how do you give what you don't have? How do you give what you have yet to receive? And so that's a good headspace, especially for the listener, to kind of keep that nugget in the back of your mind. What am I looking to push or what am I looking to project? And if I'm not receiving it, how can I project it? So that's a good place to start. You did answer the question, where did your desire, well, you can speak more about it though. Where did your desire for dependence stem from? You talked about sexual molestation, and did it happen by the same person or was it by multiple people, or just kind of kept happening in different avenues, aspects? And how did that kind of start you on that journey of usage?
Okay, so The very first time that it ever happened, it was from someone else. I don't even know who that person was. You know, I brought it up to my mom's attention, and like they had a lot of family over there. It was from my father's side of the family. We were visiting over there. So that was that first time. That was the only time I ever saw that guy. I never saw him again. But all the other times, you know, and there's a lot of people that don't know this because I usually tell them like, oh yeah, I was molested and raped, but I don't say who. So that person was my dad.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Your biological dad?
My biological dad.
Oh my goodness.
So it was like now that I think back on it, it was like a grooming process, like to where my mind, it was kind of okay. But then yet I didn't know what it was until I got a little older. Then I started seeing like, you know, it being projected on movies or shows that it was something that was bad. That's why I said that, you know, I never had that fatherly love around me. And then my mother, you know, she worked a lot. So my mom was always out of the house. I had 2 older brothers. You know, they were teenagers. So they're always out of the house. And the only thing I would see is them bringing a whole bunch of girls in, different girls. So it was just basically me and my younger siblings. And I mean, that.
And what place, how did that kind of affect you as far as emotionally, psychologically, all that? What were those emotions like as a young girl, bearing that secret, that you know, exploitation, just bearing that? How was carrying that?
I was confused. I was angry. I was depressed. I mean, I didn't know what being depressed was at a young age. But, you know, I can remember at some point in my life as a child, like being vocal, you know, being a little more outgoing. And as, you know, as the molestation progressed, then I became more quiet. I didn't want to go outside with the other kids. Like, I just wanted to be to myself. I didn't want to talk to nobody. It's like I kind of hated myself for what happened to me. And it's like I love-hate that I had towards my dad, you know, also. And then I kind of had some hate towards my mom, too, because it was like she didn't protect me from this.
Yes.
You know, she could have. This is as I got older. I was like, blame my mom. Like, she didn't tell me nothing. I didn't know about this. And then that's what pushed me to wanting to how I told you that I wanted to have a kid at an early age to get away from all that. Because I wanted, like, out of the family, pretty much. So I wanted to be, you know, independent with my, you know.
Your own.
Yeah.
So were you looking at that as more of an opportunity, you said, to get away or to kind of get out of the family? Were you looking for that more as an opportunity to, because you said you didn't feel protected by mom, right? You didn't feel protected, you didn't feel secure. Were you looking at that as an opportunity to prove to yourself that you were capable of doing the right thing for your own? Or was it more so of I just need a complete escape to get out of this situation, out of this scenario, so I don't have to think about it? Like, where do you think that part of your first sort of dependency comes from? Do you think that it's a thought process of, if I have my own, I'm going to do it better, I'm going to do it right? Or was it more so of, I need my own so that I can just get away from this and not think about it altogether?
So it's a little bit of both. So how you say you don't want to think on it, the being around, you know, it was constantly in my mind.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get away from it. So that's where I got the boyfriend, like, oh, you know, because when you're in love at a young age, like, oh, that's all you think of, right? That person is all you think of. And then, you know, I was like, oh, I want to have a child. Like, I want to love I want to love somebody too. Like, oh, this is my perfect family.
Yeah.
So I was like, now that I know, how love feels, because I never felt love like growing up, and I just felt like something was taken from me. So I just wanted to feel something. I felt empty. So I thought if I had a child, that I would feel fulfilled, I guess you can say.
Yes. Okay, wow. So that's it, and this is good for those who are listening. Everybody's situation and journey to dependency is different, right? But like I said before at the top of the podcast, everything starts from somewhere. Everything stems from something. So whatever your thing is, this is her thing. This is her story. This is her start in that journey. But whatever your start was in the journey, it's worth addressing. It's worth figuring out. It's worth digging into. It's worth getting to the bottom of and the root of, because only then would you be able to take the strength and the power that you've invested into those dependencies, right? That's when you'll be able to take it all back. When you're able to not only be free and liberated, but when you're able to know where it comes from, where it's rooted from, and you uproot it. Because if you don't uproot it, you might go back to it. So with that in mind, we're going to get to the programmed questions. Some of those questions were a little bit off script, but just so that we can explore the understanding and the mindset, the mentality behind it. So you mentioned a little bit ago that marijuana was your first drug of choice. Tell us about that experience. When did what was that first time like, or that first high, or when did, tell us about that experience, and then tell us about the progression. Where did it progress to afterwards?
Okay, so I was like 15 years, I think I was 15. Yeah, because it was shortly after I had her. So, the guy that I was with, her father, at the moment that he had friends, and they were like, oh, you try this, like, it makes you feel good or whatever. So I had never really drank. Well, I drank once before that, but I wasn't really like all into drugs or anything. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try, because he was like, oh, just, let's try it. So I tried it, and it made me feel like happy for that moment, like something that I never experienced. Like, because like I told you, I had no childhood. Like, I didn't even know what being happy was, to be honest, since I was constantly like fearing, like watching my back. As a child, I was constantly watching my back. Yeah, like what's gonna happen? And then feeling like, just feeling nasty, to put it. So I tried it, and I felt so good. I felt light. I wasn't thinking for the first time. Because every day I could tell you that before now, like every day or every 2 days, I used to think back on what happened. And then I had a child, so then I was like worried. Oh, I don't want nothing to happen to her. I didn't want to trust nobody. Like, I was very overprotective of her as well. So smoking is like, it freed me because of the feeling it gave me. And it just made me forget and just think on the moment.
Yeah.
So that's the drug that I first used. And after that, I was like, okay, so I needed a job at the moment. So, the people that I was hanging out with at the time, they were like, oh, you should go work at a strip club. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. So at this point, all I would do is just smoke. I didn't drink or nothing else. So I started working there, and getting into that environment. That environment is bad. Yeah. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's just a strip club. Nothing really. No, it's a really bad environment. They even told me, like, one of the customers was like, what are you doing here? This is the devil's playground. That's what he told me. And at first I was like,
what you doing?
Yeah, it's just a job. Like, it's just easy money. So being on the job, I got introduced to alcohol. I still didn't like it, but that feeling of escape. Just being dependent on something else, living in the moment. So from weed, I went to alcohol. Then I got introduced to cocaine. And cocaine, I felt like I was on top of the world, right? Like I feel superior to others, when my whole life I've always felt on the bottom. So I like that feeling. Then from there, I went to popping pills from bars, Worsets, ecstasy, all those type of pills. And then from then, I went to meth. I tried meth as well, and I just kept wanting more. Like, kept trying different drugs. I kept mixing the drugs because at some point, after you keep using the drug repeatedly, it doesn't hit you the same. It's like your tolerance builds up.
Yeah.
So I will mix coke with pills and with alcohol to get to where I needed to get to.
Get somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, because nothing else was making me feel that first high that I felt when I smoked weed the first time.
Listen, and it sounds cliche to say that, but it's literally the story of everybody, that nothing makes you feel the way that first time does. And it's the truth. And you know, don't get me wrong, we know the only thing that can take us there and keep us there, right? And we'll get into it in just a second, but just journeying through the story, it is very, very true. And that's with any addiction. It doesn't matter what the dependence of choice is, whether it's women, whether it's just people, companionship, no matter what. That first time is typically the best time and the only time you feel the best, right? And so I really commend you for being just completely transparent in that. I like what you said about, you said a lot, but I like what you said about just the environment, right? You're talking about it seems innocent, and that's the thing that a lot of times, especially in the culture now, and the culture is such a culture where women just really are devaluing themselves. They're taking their most precious things and literally just giving them away for nothing, like nothing. Everything that's out there within the confines of this culture literally amounts to nothing, right? But you were talking about it seems innocent, and the environment just seems like, oh, it's just this, or it's just that, it's cool. But then there are other things literally sitting there waiting on you to get to that environment, so they can, and it's a tale as old as time, right? How the devil just slid up to Eve. Just slid right in. No, wasn't no big old, marching band. Wasn't no fireworks. Wasn't no sirens. No, he just slid right on in. Boom. Found you right where you were and just slid right on in. That's something that is a tale as old as time, but you're speaking on it in such a truthful and practical way. Because oftentimes, especially for the young ladies, I'm so grateful, like I said, that your husband came on and talked to the fellas, but you really helping these ladies out to understand that you have to be careful where you journey to. Because it's them places that seem like no big deal. That's where that enemy really be waiting on you. The one that just hooked you. That's the one that's right there in that place where it seems like, it's all good. I appreciate your transparency, and I really think this is good. This is really helping a lot. I know it's going to help a lot of people. So the next question says, how did you recognize, how did your, read it right, Davion. How did dependency make you feel when using? You talked a little bit about it, but just in kind of detail, how did the dependency make you feel when you were using, and when did you begin to recognize your addiction?
So when I was using, like, I literally just forget about everything. I didn't have to worry about the future, and it could make me forget about my past, and just live in the moment. So in that lifestyle I was in, it was nothing but party. Everybody is, it's kind of like they're stuck in that moment, right? They're all just having fun. And I started to recognize I was addicted when I would look forward to going to work, because I was like, oh, somebody's gonna offer me drugs there. Like, I'm gonna be able to And then some of the guys, they started being like, oh well, can I tip you, if I put it in your shirt, or can I tip you if I put it on your skirt? And it gets to the point, because at first I wouldn't let like nobody like no, don't touch me. But then whenever, just to get the money so I can buy the drug, I would be like, I started being like, okay, and then from then it went on to me meeting a drug dealer, and he introduced me to even like a more in lifestyle in that, because there's a lot that goes on. Like you don't really see, whenever you walk into the club, you just see what you see, but there's things that go on behind the doors. So he introduced me to a lot of other drug dealers, a lot of women that pretty much like they'll do anything to get the money or to get free drugs. So when I got deep in that, I also was with one of the drug dealers, and I was just with them because I get the free drugs. Yeah, and it came to the point though where I was like, man, I don't need this guy, I can do it myself. So I was like, let me buy some of your drugs, wholesale, and let me start selling it. So that's when it got even worse, because I was like, not only in the workplace was I high, but at home, like, I will binge. Like, there'll be like 3 days I wouldn't sleep with no eating, no nothing, just constantly doing drugs. That's when I was doing cocaine. And just to come down from cocaine, then I had to take bars to put me to sleep. So it got really bad. And then I started having money issues, and then I got in debt also with the drug dealer. So, when I was working at the strip club, I was just a waitress. So when I got in debt with the drug dealer, then that's when I was like, okay, I have to make easy money. But being all drugged up, so when you are on bars, you're kind of on autopilot. That's what I used to say. You're on autopilot. It's like everything's like, okay, like it don't matter what's going on, nothing's gonna bother you. So I was on that, when I made the decision, like, oh, I'm gonna start stripping. And it's gonna be easier money, and then I can still sell, so I'm gonna have more money for drugs, and then all that. So all the money that I was making was going straight back to
the drugs,
to my addiction. So it's like I wasn't making any money. That's pretty.
Wow, that's really something to think about, because excuse me, in that definition, that fourth definition, it talked about, I scroll back up and read it, it talks about being conditioned or contingent on something as though a natural or logical sequence, right? Like it was logical to you to do something to make easy money, but the logic was contingent on what you was already conditioned by. And so when you look back on it, no matter how much you could have took a corporate job making $100,000 a year, and you would have lost all $100,000 at that job. You literally throw out all of the logic and all of what's natural because of the contingency and the conditioning that it does to your mind. And one of the things that you have said repeatedly that I haven't addressed, because I keep forgetting to address it when it's my turn, but you keep saying, I didn't think, or I just wasn't thinking. It took me away from thinking, past or past or future. Just all I could do was focus on what I was doing at the moment. And honestly, trying not to, do harm to yourself or others in whatever you were doing in that moment, right? Literally, it's really something to think about, that you weren't thinking. You couldn't see anything past, couldn't see anything future. Only thing you can focus on was the present. And when you come down from all that, it's like those weights that you were running from, or alleviated from, or elevated from, if you look at it from that perspective, right? All of those weights came crashing down 10 times harder. Once you come down from that, it's like, let me say it like this. Let me paint this picture. It's like you say high, but it's actually in reverse, right? Let's just say this is the level of life right here, okay? This is the level of life. And you do drugs, and instead of getting high, you actually go into a depression, and everything is above you. Mm-hmm. And when you come down off that high, what happens is that everything that was above you then drops, and now it falls right on top of you, right? And it comes down 10 times harder because gravity, right? Gravity just makes things fall. Mm-hmm. But it's oxymoronic that when we think about that culture or just even that lifestyle, that addiction, whatever addiction, we think that it's elevating us when it's really depressing us. Mm-hmm. And then once we come down from it, everything that's above us just crashes down on us. It's really, really, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting chills, I'm excited, but it's just really something to think about. It's thought-provoking how you say that I don't think. Oftentimes when we're irrational, or oftentimes when we're, kind of illogical in some form or another, it's evidence of a depression. It's evidence that we're lower than where we should be. In our frequency and our energy, whatever you want to call it, we're lower than where we should be. Why? Because we can't process. And so you're really bringing to light, I think, something that a lot of people have backwards. They think they smoke or drink or whatever and they go up, but they really go down. And the thing about it is every time you do it, you go deeper and deeper. And every time you come from it, life falls shorter and shorter and shorter. You see what I'm saying? It gets heavier and heavier. Man, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm excited. I'm sorry. This is amazing. Okay, so our next question says, in what ways did your addiction affect your life and others around you?
Okay, so just to add to what you were saying, it makes a lot of sense because I kept trying to find drugs that were stronger. Mm-hmm. So what you said is
yeah. Well, that's what you said.
I need something stronger now because this is not helping, mm-hmm. So, to what I thought was a help at the moment. So, the question was how did it affect, okay.
Yeah, how did it affect your life and others? Because I know at this point you have a child, your people, your parents, or you're still in contact with your dad, all of that. How does that?
So, with my daughter, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. Because I was absent a lot. So when I was lost in drugs, what I'm telling you, I was drugged up every single day for 6 years straight.
Wow.
Every single day. So it's like moments stand still. Mm-hmm. I have no memory of stuff we did. Like she could come to me and be like, hey, remember when we did this? Remember when we went here? And I have no recollection of it because even when I wasn't at work, I was like, oh, I still wanted to be on something. So I really have no recollection of her childhood.
Wow.
Yes. Growing up, I don't remember, I used to drop her off places so I can continue to get high even on my days off. So, I was absent as a mother in her life. And, I've asked her for forgiveness on that because I didn't realize that at that moment because I was being selfish. All I cared was about me, what happened to me, and I had brought another human into this world to supposedly give her what was taken from me, and I did pretty much the same thing to her. I didn't do what I had said I was going to do. So she's one of them that. And another one will be my mother because she saw me go through all that. She will cry. She'll tell me. And I was I wasn't quiet about the drugs that I would use. When if she'll be right there, I'll be like, okay, well, I'll tell her oh, I like this pill because it makes me feel good. Or I'll be like, I'm going to go smoke or I'm going to go drink. I wouldn't be quiet about my drug usage just because I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was on autopilot. So I wouldn't care. I would see her cry and be like, this is not who you are. This is not who you are. And I'll just laugh at her face, whatever, You don't know me. So she's one that I hurt so much, and like, I mean, man, she prayed for me so much.
Yes.
She prayed for me so much, and you know, I love my mother. So, and then other lives that I affected was my siblings, and this is still some of them. You know, they're struggling. If I may say, the three of them, where two are incarcerated now. You know, it all started with drugs,
right?
Because I introduced them to them. So two of them are incarcerated because of that. One is facing 7 years and the other one 15. But it all took because I introduced them to the drug. They got hooked on it. And the one that got 15, he was so hooked on it that he lost his family. And I mean, he broke into a house and he was under the influence. So in some ways, like I had told my husband, I kind of feel like it's my fault. Yeah, and then with my little brother, it all started, he in and out of juvie because he was selling. And then from selling, you know, I got him into that selling drugs lifestyle. I got him into the strip club scene. So once I got out of it, he still stayed in it. Yes, and it dragged him down because around the people he was in, and that he was also under the influence. So now they're both incarcerated. And yeah, like I feel it. Like I try to talk, you know, every time, even before they got incarcerated, because they saw me change, you know, I tried to speak to them, but then at the same moment, it's like I know where they're at because I was once there. I had people trying to stop me. I had people trying to talk to me, but you know, I didn't care. All I wanted was like, hey, leave me alone. You're ruining my high. And then I also heard, you know, prior relationships that I was in. You know, I heard the guys I was with. I was lying to them. I was manipulating them, victimizing myself. Even in 2015, you know, I got an abortion. And it all came from a selfish mindset. Like I was like I wanted the child, but then I didn't want it. So what I did for that whole week, I drugged myself up with bars. Like I was taking a lot of them because I wanted myself. Because I knew if I was sober, I wouldn't get no abortion. So I was like, I need to get an abortion. I need to. Like I set my mind to that. I was like, because right now the life I'm living, like no, like I want to keep that party life. I don't want a kid, but at the same time, I wanted a child. Like I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So I convinced myself that I was gonna get an abortion. And I got an abortion in 2015. I remember October 5th. So after that day, I slept all day. And after that day, it's like when I woke up, you know, I wasn't high anymore. And man, I felt like a big regret. Like that's probably one of the things, you know, that kind of made it because I was still into partying and drugs, right? But where it hit, where I was like, that was my first hit, if you want to say, before I decided like, hey, this ain't right.
Wow, it's a lot to unpack, and again, commending you for your courage and keeping yourself transparent in the entire ordeal. I mean, it's truth, and a lot of times we look at in movies and other things like that represents a culture of dependency, and it's not always accurate. You know, you're not always out there with your hair all crazy and looking crazy and dirty and all that. You can be what they call a functioning addict, somebody who can drive, go to work, and look the part and hide the whole time, you know. And I commend you also for speaking on your family and the ways that, you know, your dependency affected and influenced other members of your family. You know, encouragement, don't beat yourself up. At the end of the day, every tub sits on its own bottom. We all have to make our own choices. They were already in their own hurt. So they just used your hurt and the way you was operating in your hurt to do the same thing you did. try to escape. You see what I'm saying? So that's not on you. You know, trust that God will get them through it like He got you through it. But like I say, we all look at situations and scenarios in life, and we have to then make a decision about what we're going to do with the information we've received and the things that we have. So don't be discouraged. But yeah, do your due diligence. You're living right. You're in a different position. We're going to talk about this good news now. Usually we like to start with the good news, but we're going to talk about the good news now. And so my next question says, what had to take place in your life to begin your journey of restoration, and how did it change your life?
Okay, so like I said earlier, you know, the abortion was like the first hit. Like after I had that abortion, like that's when I knew I was depressed. That's when it kind of opened my eyes, like the way I'm living is not right.
Yeah,
like
you
I'm
weren't
trying to
up,
forget.
you were really down.
I was like, I'm not living right. So those were like my, I guess like you can say, you know, the little good voice, how they say, trying to come in. So, you know, shortly after I had that abortion, you know, I was working at a retail store. And like you said, I was able to function. Every single day, I would still go high on my breaks. Even my 15-minute breaks, I would go get high. So, you know, I was at work, and I hadn't told nobody about this. Nobody knew about it. You know, and then I started having people coming up to me, like random people. And they'll be like, oh, I just want to tell you, Jesus loves you. Or some will even come up to me and be like, can I give you a hug? And I'll be like, what the heck? And then when the third person came, I was like, hold on, like, are y'all judging me because of how I look? You know, because I have tattoos. And they were like, no, like, we're not. I was like, yeah, you are, because it's not just you. I've already had a couple of people come up to me and tell me that God loves me. Why are y'all telling me the same thing? So I thought they were like trying to like they planned it. That's how I was
plotting against you.
Yeah, I was like they were like, let's just find the girl that looks like she, you know, she had it said rough. So, you know, after that third person, then I had another guy with a group of, and these were young guys. And they were with the holding a Bible, and he was like, hey, sister. He was like, let me pray for you.
Wow.
Yeah, and then at that moment, it's like it took me back. So let me go back to my childhood, right? So when I was like 8, 9 years old, my mom started going to church. So let me tell you, I was so engaged when I was, you know, this before everything progressed with my dad. So I wasn't as broken. So, you know, I heard about God, stories, all the Bible stories, you know, that usually children learn. And I wanted, like, it made me feel good. Like, I guess I felt some type of love, you know, and that being in that environment. And I was very engaged. Like, I would go up there, I would give scriptures, I would do scripture readings. I used to go up there and sing. And, you know, I was constantly encouraging people. Like, I was being very loving, something that I wasn't when I was at home. It's like in being in that environment around, you know, other people that love God, I feel free in a way. And that's when I was like 8, 9. So go back, right? Fast forward to the guy asking me, can I pray for you? You know, since I already kind of knew the word for the moments that I did go, you know, I remembered there's a part in the Bible where he's like, if you deny me in front of, you know, your friends, I'm going to deny in front of my Father. So real quick, it's like that hit me. So I was like, because I was at work. I was in the middle of work. I wasn't on break or anything. And I was like, okay. I said, okay. Not even believing, like, you know, so he started praying for me. And as he started praying, I started sweating. I'm telling you, I was like dripping sweat. And he was praying, and, you know, what he was saying was touching base with just what had happened. Yeah, because I'm telling you, after that abortion, I felt so heavy. And as he prayed, I feel like weight has been lifted. And when he was done praying, he was like, "Sister, how do you feel?" And I was like, "I feel very hot." And he just started laughing. He's like, "Amen, amen." You know, and then that was my little experience that I had with that. So shortly after that, you know, again, I was back, okay, I didn't feel as bad. Then I went back to that lifestyle again. And then I had a dream. And then in this dream, I was like in a city, a very busy city. And I would see a lot of people passing by, like really fast. A lot of people. Then I had somebody tugging on me in the bottom, and I was standing up. And it was my brother, one of my brothers. And he was tugging on me. But he looked homeless. And he was like, "Look, look." And then I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Look, look over there." And he kept pointing. And I was looking, but I was just seeing a whole bunch of people passing by. He's like, "He's been there all along. You just chosen not to see him." And I was like, "Cool." And then I just see a lot of people, and he kept saying, "Look, look, look." It was like, "Open your eyes." So then I finally like looked up at the same, where I couldn't see nobody, right? Then I saw like this man bring down, like he had it covered, like his head, and everything else behind him stopped. Like I could see the people, like everybody just paused. And he turned around, and when our eyes met, like I can't even tell you a description of a face because it's like I didn't see no face. I just saw the eyes. Once our eyes connected, like I felt something inside, and my knees felt weak, and I fell down. Like I couldn't stand no more. I fell down to my knees, and I just started weeping. Like I started weeping like nonstop. I woke up crying.
Wow.
And when I woke up, like I knew that was Jesus. And let me tell you, I didn't believe in Jesus. I believed that there was a God, and this was something that I always used to fight with people about. I'm like, there's a God, but I didn't believe that the Jesus part of it. But then when I woke up, it's like I knew in my within myself, like I knew this is Jesus. And you know, from that moment on, I still went back to partying and everything, but I had some type of belief in me because of everything that was going on. So it came to the point where the relationship that I was with, I wanted out. I wanted out because I had deceived this guy, and I felt bad about it. But yet, I didn't want to admit that I was the wrong one. I didn't want to admit that I had cheated. I didn't want to admit that I had, you know, been doing drugs that he didn't even know about, or going to party without his knowledge. So I just, I tried to keep it all a secret from him for a very long time. And then after, I guess, all those little episodes that happened, I felt bad, and I started having a conscience. So I wanted out, but I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. So I was basically being real mean to him, like trying to get him to leave me. Yes, but he wouldn't leave me. So he had also like a bad upbringing. So for that one day that it got really out of hand, I was like kicking him out, and he got kind of aggressive. So I don't want to say he hit me. He didn't hit me, but he wouldn't let me leave the house. Like I was trying to leave, and he wouldn't. And he put his hands on me, like he held me down. He gripped me tight. Like I had bruises on my arm, but it was because he wasn't. It's like he kind of lost it for a bit there. Yeah, like, no, I'm not gonna let you leave. I was trying to call for help. He didn't want to let me. Like he didn't want to let me leave. He was holding me hostage in my own apartment, and that went on for like 2-3 hours. So after that happened, that right there was really my rock bottom. So it was the abortion, then that happening to me, and then me trying to find a stronger drug, and no drug, I'm telling you, no drug was hitting the same. I couldn't feel high no more. That high that I once felt, I didn't feel it no more. So I just felt empty.
Wow.
Like I felt so empty. So I just want to say, you know, I met my husband at work. He wasn't my husband then. I never paid attention to him. You know, I didn't care for him. He came up to me, and he started talking to me, you know, about the Lord. And even when he was talking to me, I was coked up that day. Like, I was sweating so much. He was like, why are you sweating? He even asked me why I was sweating. I didn't tell him I was drugged up. But yeah, I was on drugs. And
wow.
Him telling me that, then from then, he was like, oh, let me introduce you to, you know, a sister in Christ. She can talk to you a little more. Because I told him, he kind of, I felt comfortable opening up to him and told him what I had been through. I even showed him my bruises. And so that sister in Christ was like, oh, sister, come to church. So I went, I tried it. For the first week, I was high. I was going high to church. I was bored out. I would smoke before I'll go. I mean, I'll put the eye drops and spray and all that. And then, you know, it hit me whenever one time one of the ministers was speaking. He was like, the Lord don't care if you're high. He was like, he don't care if you're high and coming into his house. He was like, he's still receiving you with open arms. But let me tell you one thing. He was like, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. You have to choose, and you have to choose today.
Wow.
So I seriously felt like he's talking to me. Like he must be talking to me. So that day I also went up to the altar when they did an altar call. And, you know, one of the pastors, he prayed. And when he started praying, I felt so hot again. I started sweating. And then he was praying for me. And as he was praying for me, like, I opened my eyes and I seen him and he was like crying. But as he started telling me like stuff that I had told nobody. Nobody knew me in that church. Nobody knew my past. Like, not even my husband knew my past. So nobody knew me. And he started speaking on things that only God would know, right? If there was a God.
Yeah.
Because how else would this man, this stranger, know all these things on me? And he was crying. And I just felt like big weight had been lifted. Like, I felt freed. Like, I felt love. Like, I felt all those emotions at once. And I just busted out crying.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when I first really found God. Like, yeah, after that day, I decided, like, after I walked out, I don't want to be who I was. I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to keep hurting people. I don't want to hurt myself.
Wow.
I want to change. And, you know, that's where my walk started. And that was in 2017. In March 2017. Yes.
Wow. So it's, you know, you journeyed through a lot, and it doesn't take long. You know, that was just a few years ago. It don't take long for God to do a complete transformation in your life. And so that's good and encouraging. And I so appreciate, like I say, your transparency, your honesty, because for those who are listening, you know, there's plenty of people out there that listen to the podcast. They go to church, they are part of ministries and all this kind of stuff, might have, you know, all these things going on. But somebody needed to hear just what you said, that minister said. God don't care if you're high in church. He's still here to receive you. Somebody listening right now been judging people all their life coming in and out of the church because of whatever state they were existing in at that point. But number one, I'm grateful that God spoke to you exactly where you were in life. And that is the true epitome of the love of God, that he meets us right where we are. And it don't matter how deep or how low, because we've already disclosed that high is contrary, totally contrary, oxymoronic, contradictory, whatever you want to call it. As high as you go is as low as you go. But it don't matter how low you've gone, God will reach down, meet you right where you are, and pick you up. And so we're coming into the quote portion of this episode, and you all know I always have a quote. And I read this quote, it changed my life, and it simply says, "Those who hit rock bottom have the perfect foundation to rebuild their life. What are your thoughts on that quote?
Those who hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're at the bottom, I mean like really bottom, you got nowhere else but to look up.
Yes.
And it's like starting fresh, starting new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that speaks that, man, it spoke to me so much the first time I read it years ago, that it says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. It's like we go on life, right? And we're in pain, and whatever might have caused the pain, we're just walking around trying to find something to fill us up, trying to find something, right, to make us feel alive again and high. And the whole time, you know, God is right there with you. So in that dream that I had, it made sense when the scripture, because, you know, he was like, he's been here this whole time. He's been here. Just look at him. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like the whole time through everything I was going through, when I felt I was alone, he was right there just waiting for me. Just waiting for me to let him in. And I can tell you right now that the high, that's an imitation to what God can do. Because when the Holy Spirit hits, and you know, you up there at the altar, you hear that worship song hit, and when you feel like you're in tune, like, with God, you feel, I want to say something similar to that high, but it's something better. So it's like the devil imitates everything. Everything. He copies everything. But he gives you the cheaper, fake version of it.
And it never lasts, and that's the difference. What God can do for us, the Bible literally says only what we do for God will last. And so that's literally when God elevates us, it's real, you know. It's there, you know. This quote kind of speaks to me in the way that, you know, when you look at a skyscraper like the Empire State Building, the Twin Towers, something like that, they don't start at ground level. You see what I'm saying? They got to dig in to set the foundation. And so it makes me, because those buildings are tall, right? Some of the tallest buildings in the world. But they got to go down before they go up. And it just makes, if you really think about this quote for what it's literally saying, you have a lot of people out there in the world that have it easy, silver spoon, don't struggle, don't have to, you know, worry about things in life and that sort of thing, born into, you know, riches and all that kind of stuff. And, well, let me not say a lot of people, because I think less than 1% of the population is actually wealthy, right? But just with that in mind, it just goes to show you that even those type of people, they never get established or grounded in themselves because they don't go down. You know, they start on top. So they don't have anywhere to set a foundation, right? And I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about, I don't understand how people get rich and all this, celebrities, all this kind of stuff, and then they go and kill themselves and things like that. It's because you didn't get grounded. And so a lot of times, we often try to avoid hitting that rock bottom, not knowing that when you're at rock bottom, it's not ground level, it's below ground level. And that's where you start to build that foundation, because literally all foundation is concrete. That's all foundation is. It's just concrete. But what it does is once you begin to build on top, it holds the integrity of the structure of whatever you're building that's going up. It holds it in place so that when the winds come, when the earthquakes come, when the tornadoes come, when all these things come, and again, sometimes all of these things come and will completely level whatever you've built. But guess what? You don't have to hit anymore. You don't have to hit rock bottom. Why? Because the foundation has filled the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very minimum, even because life continues to happen, even when we
Yeah.
struggle in life and things like that, you may start to build up the skyscraper, and then a hurricane comes, completely destroys the skyscraper, right? But I don't have to dig to rock bottom to build up a foundation. The foundation is there, no matter what comes, no matter what happens. The foundation is there. And that's the thing. You talked about your start when you heard the word, when the minister prayed over you, and you really felt God for the first time. What he literally did was, you were already at rock bottom. He just filled the foundation with concrete. He filled that bottom up with concrete. And like the word says, he placed your feet on solid ground.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you at a solid place. Only thing you can do from this point is build. Build up. He gives you the tools, everything you done been through in life, everything we go through in life. They're just tools to help us build. But once you encounter God, he fills that rock bottom. Like I say, here's ground level. Whatever we done been through took us below ground level. And so what he does is when he meets us, he fills all of that up with concrete and lets us rest in that foundational place. Now we back at ground level. And now we have the perfect opportunity to build whatever we want, perfect opportunity to build. Why? Because he's given us new ground. So that's just my take on it. Any other piggyback before we transition into our final portion? No. Okay. All right, so we've come to the takeaway. Let me again thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your honesty. All right, mamas. Miss Akiana's clapping over there. Thank you so much for really engaging with the audience as well. All right, so we've come to the end of the show. I thank you for everything, the transparency, the honesty, connecting with the audience and engaging with everybody. I really, truly believe this will help and be a blessing to everyone who's listening. Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, because you touched on a multitude of things, and the story is just really, really necessary. And that's just the word that comes to mind. All of that was necessary for somebody listening on today. So I appreciate you coming in and sharing. So we come to the takeaway portion, and this is the portion of the show where we give challenges or expectations to the listener. So those of you who are listening, you get to hear our final thoughts and any challenge or expectation we set forth for you to try to accomplish in the next 7 days. And so I'm going to give the floor to Jessica so she can give her takeaway, and then I'll give mine, okay?
No, I just want to tell, whoever watches this or listens to this, to be encouraged, not to let anything that happened in your past or that is going on right now, don't put it above everything else. Don't put all your focus and energy on it, because it's not good. I mean, to think on those things. And I don't know if a lot of you know God or have any experience, but I just want to say that if you give God a try, you won't be disappointed. Like, you won't be disappointed at all. He can completely turn you around through your life, like a 360. And just be encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for those words. Like I say, your entire story alone really should encourage the listener. And I think anybody whether they're dealing with addiction or whether they're in a lifestyle that's kind of alternative or ulterior to their value, especially for the ladies, or just anybody that, even dealing with relationships and how you handle those who you call yourself to be in relationship with. I mean, you've touched on a multitude of things, and I think that there are several nuggets for people to receive and be blessed by and helped with. So my takeaway, this is sort of a semi-challenge. my takeaway is more so for the factor of accountability. I'm encouraging everyone to seek accountability, not necessarily for the things that you may have done or your actions, but seek accountability in the truth, right? At the beginning, you talked a lot about how you were exploited, taken advantage of, especially by a source that you should have been able to trust the most. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it caused you to make some decisions in life based off of the emotions and things that you felt, right? And that is where I'm challenging everyone. Oftentimes we do things as a result of lack of accountability to the people or the person who deserves it most, right? And so what happens is that we, not that, and I mean this in the most metaphorical way, we turn the blade on ourselves, right? Instead of projecting on who or what we should be projecting on it, we oftentimes will turn the blade on ourselves, cut ourselves up, we're bleeding, can't patch ourselves, and then after we've cut ourselves up so bad and there's nowhere left to cut, then we'll turn it around and cut somebody else. But oftentimes that secondary person is who doesn't deserve it. And so you cut up and you beat up and you stab up and you bruise up so many other people, and oftentimes either never get to the accountability factor, meaning the person who deserves it, or the person who foundationally established these things in you, these traumas, these emotions, or whatever that issue, that instance is, right? You oftentimes either never get there, or by the time you get there, it's too late. And where they need accountability, they can no longer accept it. Or sometimes what happens is that person changes their ways, and now it's hard for you to be mad at that person because they've changed, right? And so the thing about it is I'm encouraging everyone to seek accountability where accountability is due, and make sure that you're heard, make sure that you voice your not just opinions, but voice what's real, voice the truth. Let that truth set you free, instead of bottling that up and then allowing it to take you on a journey that you didn't intend on going. So that's my takeaway for all who are listening. And Jesus Christ, what's going on? I'm so glad. See, I knew God was working this out because he wanted me to record this and everything like that. So yeah, that's literally my takeaway, is just understand how to deal with accountability as it pertains to what you're dealing with, whether you're going through or what you've been through in life. Because if you don't, then again, what happens is you turn it all on yourself. And then once you beat yourself up for so long that you have nothing left, you then go and you throw that on your boss, and you throw that on your children, and you throw that on your spouse, and you throw it on everybody before you ever even get to the person or entity that caused you harm in the first place. And so that's my encouragement to all who's listening. I think that if we ever get to that position, and it comes with a little bit of emotional intelligence, meaning that I have to know what's going on inside my own head and heart, right? Mm-hmm. Because once I become dependent, then what's going to happen? I'm going to be conditioned, or my life will be contingent on something that's not natural, not logical, but my mind will make me believe that it is. Mm-hmm. So what happens? I'm going to go through life unbalanced. And when you go through life unbalanced, unsteady, no good foundation, no rock bottom experiences, all that kind of stuff, then you're on a path of destruction. So that's my takeaway for those who are listening. If you're struggling with addiction, if you're struggling with any kind of trauma or issue, resolve it through the accountability factor. Make sure, and this isn't about revenge, because God knows how to get the best revenge. This isn't about making people hurt the way they made you hurt. This is simply, at the very least, speaking truth that will then set you free from a pathway of bondage. Whether it be in conversation, whether it be in, whatever way you need to figure that out, therapy, whatever, but you have to give accountability where accountability is due so that you can get the trauma and the bottling it up and the effects of all of that off of you. That way you're not walking down a path of, well, let me hurt myself first, then let me hurt my loved ones, then let me hurt somebody that don't deserve it, then let me go into relationships, lie, manipulate, cheat, steal, borrow big, and hurt that person and hurt this person because I don't know how to deal with the accountability of who really hurt me. And then, like I say, and it happens. Ultimately, I see it happen all the time. A lot of people, they have violators and things like that. And by the time they get to a place where they can logically figure it all out and want to hold that person or that entity accountable, that person is changed. That person is sweet. That person is no longer that same person, or, they're in a different space in life. And then now it's like, well, I can't go and cut you up because you don't even look like the same person anymore. You got to get your accountability factor in early, but it's never too late. I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to land my plane right there. It's never too late for accountability. So anything else you have? I know I said a lot, a mouthful. Anything else you have?
No, you just hit it like right in the nail.
Okay. Absolutely so elated for this episode. This is the episode before the season finale. Next week I'm going to be joined by DJ Irene, which is my sister in Christ. So we're going to have a much more lighthearted episode. This was a heavier episode. We've had some pretty heavy hitters this season, but this next week's episode is the season finale. With DJ Irene, we're going to talk a little bit about what we do at the table, and ways to get back to the table, connect with your family. So I certainly hope everybody has enjoyed everything that has been said today and heard today. Real quick, Jessica, I give the platform, and I always allow people the opportunity to give their platforms if they desire to. People may want to connect with you. People may want to thank you, encourage you, however that needs to go. So tell them where they can find you if they wanted to connect with you.
Well, I don't really have any.
I know you have
no,
Facebook.
But Facebook is the only thing that I have. So it's Michael Jessica Gonzales with the S at the end.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so y'all more than welcome to send me a message or anything. Or if you have any questions or want to know a little deeper, then, I'm open to talk.
Absolutely. Once again, we thank you for the platform. We thank you for coming today. And as always, I tell you guys at the end of every podcast, go and be great because you can. I want to really encourage you guys in understanding that I am going to be taking a break from the podcast for a little while. I'm expecting or planning to come back for the summer months. So around the May-ish, June-ish era. You guys can order my seasoning. I have a new seasoning out, Heaven Sent Wings seasoning. So you guys can order that as well. And of course, all the other seasonings as well. Just in time for Super Bowl as well. So, y'all order the wing seasoning. And I'm just so full and so full of life. This has been a wonderful season. Season 3 will be coming soon. Connect with us if you want to be a part of Season 3. If you have a story, you guys know how to find me. TCK Table everywhere. TCK Table Podcast on Instagram. Email counselorskitchen@gmail.com. So y'all contact me, connect with me. I really want to make Season 3 bigger and better. And it's so great. So I love you, Jess. Thank you so much. We had her husband on a couple of weeks ago. So same couple. This is Michael's wife. So men, I know y'all love the accountability factor, the man talk, right? So ladies, this is his wife, and we're just so elated to have them. These are my genuine brothers and sisters in Christ. So all right, y'all go and be great because you can. Do all things with Christ, who is your strength. And I love y'all. Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye-bye.